Federal government engages foreign journalists on recent happenings in Nigeria.
Northern Governors Forum sets up Youth and Civil Society Committee to address agitations.
And federal government begins legal reforms of Nigeria aviation sector with transmission of 6 reform bills to National Assembly.
And in the aftermath of the harsh NSAS protest, we shall today discuss restoration of police morale.
And it all began sometimes in 2017 when youths shared experiences on the defunct Special Anti-Robbery Squad SARS online. Now, that snowballed into street protests in October 2020. Now, the trigger for that was when a video of police officers alleged to be members of the defunct SARS were seen attacking an unarmed young Nigerian man.
All right, the Honorable Minister of State for Labour and Employment, Festus Keyamo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, later explained that the young man was alive, but in hospital. This then led to the ban on the SARS unit by the Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, who also ordered its members to report to Abuja for debriefing, psychological and medical examinations.
Now, the first street protest actually began in Lagos and then cascaded into a nationwide protest, basically fueled by news of another death again from police brutality.
Well, a number of states took steps to assuage the protesters. For example, Lagos state government set up a 200 million naira fund for victims of police brutality.
Now, while the federal government took steps to meet the 5-point demands made by the NSAS protesters, the Nigeria's Governors Forum demanded justice for victims of police brutality. Also, the Police Service Commission listed names of about 37 members of the defunct SARS for dismissal from service.
But what ensued was certainly an escalation of the protests in various parts of the country, leading ultimately to the destruction of at least 205 police stations and the killing, sometimes in gruesome circumstances, of no fewer than 22 policemen.
Now, that has kept many people, all over the country wondering the rationale behind the burning down specifically of police stations and, of course, the implications of these actions on the morale of good police officers.
Well, they have also raised concerns about the implications of the latest developments on national security. As you very well know, there have been reports of the absence of policemen on beat patrols, leading, of course, to the Inspector General of Police ordering all men and officers to return to their beats. Of course, the Inspector General has also now set up a committee on the welfare of officers, and more particularly to take care of the circumstances arising from the wanton destruction of police stations as well as the loss of personnel.
Now, if you recall, one of the demands by the NSAS protesters was an increase in the salary of police officers, though many have expressed concern over the country's ability to sustain bigger pay packet for the Nigeria police.
Well, some persons are also worried about the impact of the harsh NSAS protest hijacked by hoodlums, it is said, the impact that could have on the gains in trying to establish Nigeria's community policing system. And they're also asking how the country can give a boost to the morale of police officers and men after the gruesome attacks.
So the question is, what happens to the families of policemen who lost their lives in NSAS protests, and what can be done to reposition the police for better service delivery? This will form the focus of our conversation today on restoring the morale of officers of the Nigeria Police Force after attacks suffered during the NSAS protest. Hello and welcome to the program. I am Claire Adilabo Abdul Razak, and this is Tuesday's edition.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I join my colleague Claire to also welcome you to the program. We are reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now, we also have our complimentary segments, and these include newspaper review and business. In the meantime, we joined Informa Ojinta, who is already seated to give us the highlights of the morning news. Good morning, Informa.
Good morning, Kingsley and Claire. Thanks for joining us on the morning news. The federal government is reassuring Nigerians and the international community that everything will be done within the limits of the law towards ascertaining the veracity or otherwise of all the allegations of impunity in the country, with a view to dealing appropriately with those found wanting. The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, who said this, however, warned against rushing to judgment without getting to know the facts. The minister was speaking at an interactive engagement with international journalists in the country.
Different kinds of reportage, particularly from the international media. Some informed, some not quite informed, some downright incorrect. And we just felt it was necessary to invite these international journalists so that we can share perspectives with them. Because if they have background information, I don't think journalists set out deliberately to skew reports.
The Northern Governors Forum has resolved to set up Youth and Civil Society Committee to engage Nigerian youths with a view to addressing their pressing demands and put to rest their agitations. The governors arrived at the decision in Kaduna after an engagement with the Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, and Chief of Staff to the President, Professor Ibrahim Gambari.
The appeal of Mr. President is that the governors of the states and the traditional rulers to support the government as it seeks to achieve the objective of Mr. President, which is to have a stable, prosperous, and secure nation.
I urge our royal fathers to draw on your communal reverence and social control instrument in engendering a moral revival.
About 420 officers and men of the newly formed Special Weapons and Tactics Team of the Nigerian Police Force are currently undergoing training at the Mobile Police Force Training School in Dehi Hill, Nasarawa.
Nigerians should accept good performance and sound professionalism with human face, because the whole training and the SWAT exercise is intelligence-driven operation.
Government will continue to do whatever is possible to ensure that you perform creditably.
Youths in the country have been advised to eschew violence, desist from wanton destruction of public utilities, and support government strategic measures to revamp the economy. Minister of Foreign Affairs Geoffrey Onyama gave the advice at a town hall meeting with traditional rulers and representatives of youth organizations in Enugu State. The meeting was aimed at charting a way forward following the recent NSAS protests across the country.
The way Mr. President responded when the demonstration started and there was 5-point demand, he immediately set up institutional mechanisms to address the points, the 5 points that were raised by the NSAS movement.
Get that fund for empowerment of our students so that they can actually become good researchers, and of course use it as an incentive for professors to invent something in the university.
It should be a continuing process. It's not once and for all.
The federal government has kick-started the process of legal reforms of the Nigerian aviation sector through the transmission of 6 reform bills to the National Assembly. The bills, having passed second reading at the Senate, have now been subjected to public hearing with the Minister of Aviation, Senator Hadi Sirika, and other key players providing experts' perspectives.
And these are monies that they ought to give us. Now, if we reduce downwards that our 5% that she's proposing, then our monies goes down.
Abuja and State complex, which this government, more than any government, is determined to revitalize. And for it to work, we must put that airport into shape.
Clause that imposes 5% contract, sales, and service charge. Our proposal is that a consideration be given to lowering that percentage.
Part of the vision of the Ministry of Environment in 2021 is nationwide deployment of automated flood early warning system equipment. This is to prevent the devastation of flood and victim on communities. The minister was at the House of Representatives for Budget Defense.
Something that is in the forefront, one of the really flagship projects of this administration. Remediation activities are completed in 10 sites, but so far 6 of which are waiting final certification by NOSDRA.
And that concludes the morning news highlights. Good morning, Nigeria. On NSAS protest and restoring police morale will continue immediately after this break with Claire and Kingsley.
The recent genuine concerns and agitations by Nigerians about the excessive use of force and, in some cases, extrajudicial killings and wrongful conduct by men of the Nigerian police force. The disbanding of SARS is only the first step in our commitment to extensive police reform in order to ensure that the primary duty of the police and other law enforcement agencies remains the protection of lives and livelihoods of our people. We will also ensure that all those responsible for misconduct or wrongful acts are brought to justice. We also deeply regret the loss of life of the young man in Oyo State during the recent demonstrations. I have directed that the circumstances of his death should be thoroughly investigated. Meanwhile, it is important to recognize that the vast majority of men and women of the police force are hardworking and diligent in performing their duties. The few bad eggs should not be allowed to tarnish the image and reputation of the force.
Mr. President said the youth of this country have spoken, and he has heard, and he has since gone to work for the youth of our country, not just as a president, but even as a father of the younger generation.
The real Nigerian youth is a patriot, not a tool of destabilization.
Mr. President made an appeal to the Nigerian youth that this protest, wherever held, should be done in a peaceful manner. The Nigerian youth should be on their guard to make sure that elements that will infiltrate and distract them from the very purpose of their protest should be prevented from doing so.
Listen to the voice of reason.
Make a load recharge card, I beg.
I don't find the money.
Plenty day to win for the 9 Mobile Mega Millions promo. 1 million naira for one person every day for 90 days. 2 smartphones every hour, every day for 90 days. 10 million naira star prize day. New customers just come with side or buy a new line, and we go send you free 1 gigabyte plus 500 naira airtime. So make you the recharge 200 naira or more. Make you for the win.
9 Mobile.
All right, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and we're live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. It's time for business news, and our correspondent, Kunle Adeyeye, is our guide.
With Nigeria's population increasing by the day, to be gainfully engaged is becoming competitive and a survival of the fittest. Experts believe that limited white-collar jobs make entrepreneurship a viable option to help address unemployment in the country. A professor of entrepreneurship, Lekon Zakariao, is urging government to make its economic policies and programs entrepreneurship-friendly. He says an entrepreneurship-friendly economy will help create jobs and contribute to GDP growth while also promoting social cohesion.
Entrepreneurship is a great thing, and is a global word, it's a global practice. And funding you also mentioned is also very important and so very strategic in business. The capital, the only thing is that most people could not x-ray what capital is all about. The funding we are talking about can be analyzed, and that is the way we should look at it entrepreneurially.
And let's see how the tradings on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange went on Monday, November 2, 2020. With business news, I'm Kunle Adeyeye.
All right, many thanks to you, Kunle Adeyeye, for the business package. Coming up next is newspaper review.
Newspaper reviewer Bayo Tebe is with us in the studios. Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, President. Good morning.
Good morning, Bayo.
Good morning, Nigeria.
That's right. Okay, we have three papers, Daily Trust, The Nation, and The Pilot. Well, let's take a look at the window page of the Nation newspaper. Above the name flag, airlines owe federal government $6.99 million and 19.3 million naira. That's according to the aviation minister. Airlines owe federal government $6.99 million and 19.3 million naira. Details on page 7. WASC recalls 65% pass. WASC recalls 65% pass. That is 5 credits, including maths and English. NECO restarts exams. You find details on pages 6 and 7. Kogi tops state's fiscal transparency assessment. IPOB hoists Biafra flag in Benue community. And below the name flag, 158,000 affected by flood in Kebbi, says NEMA. And NCC approves eSIM trial. That's on page 11. And you have the photograph there on the front page showing the meeting of northern leaders that took place yesterday. And the headline from that is also the lead story for the Nation newspaper, coming with a kicker. North leaders. Protests hijacked to divide Nigeria. With 2 riders, harsh NSAS protesters' action subversive, and censorship of social media in order. You have other highlights from that story. Of course, we have details not just on the front page with a continuation on page 5. From the meeting of the northern leaders, said support for Nigeria's unity, strict watch on FCT, police reform okay, slams attacks on persons and properties, endorses rule for traditional rulers, raises panel for traditional rulers and youth engagement, seeks end to ASUL industrial action, and to take action on Almajiri and illiteracy. And then also there, big day for the U.S. today, ultimately. Who wins, Trump or Biden? That's the story there, but you also have details on the inside, and some of the key facts are highlighted there in the sidebar to that story. Total number of voters, 255 million. Votes so far, at least 97 million. Votes so far, at least 97 million. And those votes, of course, have been either by mail-in or in-person voting. Now, this is how the American presidential election works. It's by an electoral college system, total number of electoral delegates 538 and needed to win. That's usually called the magic number or the magic figure, 270 delegates. Tambuwal to unveil youth's program, page 35. Niger commissioners, COVID-19 positive, page 35. Not all of them. 3 of them are COVID-19 positive, as the story will say on the inside. Play.
All right, and the front page of this Daily Trust newspaper is quite busy. Let's start with the headlines. Northern governors, Nigeria indivisible, comes with a number of riders. One social media censored. Fake news instigated NSAS protests as attributed to the IGP. It's time for state police, El-Rufai, and we must act fast to save our country. And this is coming from experts. And just a bit below the nameplate, Buhari gave the nod for rescue of American captive. It's on page 4. And court fixes November 5 to determine Emir Zazau's status. It's on page 6. And again, America decides today. You can read up the details of that on page 34. Down at the foot of the paper, soldiers not ordered to shoot NSAS protesters. That's coming from the federal government. Details of that on page 38. Now, also 3 commissioners test positive for COVID-19 in Niger, also on page 9. And Morik and Magban kick as hoodlums destroy mosques and burgle shops in Enugu. Details of that on page 10.
But let's start with the meeting of the Northern Governors Forum that met with other Northern leaders. At the meeting were the Senate President, Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Chief of Staff to the President, the Minister of FCT, Minister of Information, the Sultan, and the committee ended up appointing 2 committees. One is headed by the Emir of Zazzau, Ambassador Ahmed Bamali. He heads the Committee for Youth and Social Civil Societies. The other committee is headed by the Emir of Lafia, Justice Sidi Mohammed, who heads the Committee for the Rule of Traditional Rulers. The assignment for the committees is as highlighted earlier on by Kingsley. The other story that is making the rounds is related to the American hostage, Philip Wanton, 27, who was abducted in Niger but rescued in Ilela in Sokoto. Marine Special SEALs, 6 of them, supported by intelligence report from Niger and Nigeria, by Nigeria officials, described their operation as precision. Guess what? Our political parties are already playing ping-pong, blaming government or the other on the issue. As soon as Walton was abducted in Niger, the captors called the victim's father. The Nigerian security informed the Nigeria that the telephone number that was used was Nigerian. So Nigerian security tracked and located the abductors in Ilela, Sokoto. The US government liaised with the government of Nigeria so that they could quickly rescue him before he is sold to terrorists, because one of his competitors, Jeffrey Wood, had been abducted and for 4 years now, from the same Niger, for 4 years now, he has not been rescued. So the US government requested permission from President Muhammadu Buhari to carry out the rescue, based on humanitarian grounds as well as pledges to provide support against terrorism. The signal was given, and the SEALs came in. They worked with what has been described as night helicopter, which had night flying facilities, and they didn't provide any sound. So they were able to attack the abductors. They killed 6 out of the 7 abductors and rescued Mr. Walton freely. Mr. Walton was living with his young daughter and his wife in a farm in Masala in Niger. Walton was abducted at his home in southern Niger. He was asked to produce money. He gave them $40, and they were not satisfied, and they took him away. The good news is that he has been rescued, and the credit goes to the cooperation between Nigerian, and the U.S. security, who were able to support the American SEALs that rescued him. Who is the next president? Americans in 7 hours will be going to the polls. There are 255,200,373 voters in America. Already, 97,665,370 had already cast their vote. So today, about 157,535,000 will be going to the polls to elect who will be the next president will be. Others that are to be elected too include governors, some seats in the Senate as well as House of Representatives. Interestingly, some 9 Nigerian Americans are also contesting in the elections. Talking about COVID-19, the Director General of the World Health Organization, Tedros Ghebreyesus, has announced that he has contracted COVID-19. This is the foremost spokesperson for the World Health Organization when it comes to COVID-19. He said he was identified as a contact person of someone with COVID-19 symptoms. He is currently asymptomatic, but he has already self-quarantined. And in Niger State, 3 commissioners tested positive from the State Executive Council. The Secretary to the State Government has directed that all members of the council are now to be tested. But for Nigeria, we are making some steady progresses. Nigeria recorded 923 new COVID-19 cases between the week of October 25th to 31st. There are 1,390 recoveries and discharges within this period. Last week, last week was week 44 since the COVID-19 began. But as at yesterday, we had 72 new cases which were recorded in 9 states. Lagos had 51. All the other states has single digits. So total now, 63,836. And those that have been discharged so far is 59,305. The deaths we have registered so far, unfortunately, are 1,147. Presently, you have 2,561 undergoing care in various hospitals. Drug trafficking at the Murtala Mohammed Airport, 2 Nigerians, Simeon Okebunwe and James Anyako, were arrested when they arrived at Murtala Airport, having containments that concealed 8 children duvet and 7 absorbent towels that were soaked in cocaine. The controller in charge of that airport said this brings to about 12 the number of persons that have been arrested for drug trafficking in that point of Lagos. Well, WIC result has been released, and out 65.24% passed out of the 1,538,445 candidates. NECO too has announced that the examination that it was suspended is now going to start from Monday 9th November to Saturday 28th of November.
But quickly take a look at the editorial. It's on why U.S. presidential election matters to the world, and it's from the Nigerian pilot in just 60 seconds, if you may.
Yes, the pilot is saying that America owes the world to set an example as a democratic state by providing an election that will be exemplary to the world. Unfortunately, the American election campaign this year has been very, very divisive, and the issues surrounding COVID-19, racism, has gotten America very, very divided. And it is hoped that already in New York and other cities, shoppers have already started boarding their premises, anticipating that there could be possible violence after the election. But the security are alert to avoid that.
Someone said just at the back of Daily Trust,
yes.
I think one of the comments says, what all this means is that for once, American presidential elections is not fought on the altar of programs and projects, but on a roadmap only visible to Trump and his supporters, using the catchphrase, "Make America Great Again."
Yes.
Well, I'm sure some persons, other persons will disagree with that. The
Seriously,
agenda of Trump is very clear, and the specifics of his campaign have also been known to his band of supporters in different parts of the country. Well, the only thing there is that usually by 24 hours from now, we should have been expecting to have a clear view of who the winner is, but that looks potentially challenging on account of the early voting, because you have to take some time to count those ballots that were mailed in the first instance. And if all of that would affect the number of votes to be tallied in a state, and therefore know the number of electors to be assigned to the winner of that particular state, then it probably might drag on for a couple of days. It would be unusual in the first instance. We saw what happened in Florida.
Yes, Florida.
20 years ago, that Al Gore versus Bush Jr. So that's going to be one other thing. Very quickly, I think that COVID-19 and the WASC results, if you recall, one of the reasons for the delay in writing the SSE was the fear that there might be super spreader actions arising from having the candidates in one location. But that was 2 months ago that the exams were written, and there is no indication that we have had a spike arising from the way the exams were conducted. So whatever protocols we observed then should still be observed with NECO, which is restarting on the 9th. 1 point. Another point is, here we are not doing sufficient testing now. Everybody's probably letting down their guards. So we saw the congregation of some persons referred to them yesterday as food lumps. Those who were storming warehouses to be taking COVID-19 palliatives and so on and so forth. Total disregard for social distancing, no mask, nothing whatsoever. What happens 2 weeks from now? Are we going to see, a spike in the number of COVID-19 cases? And I think that it's important for the authorities in those locations where you had uncontrolled and uncontrollable crowds to say, look, let's do some testing and let the scientists also carry out their research if it turns out that we don't have a spike in the numbers of coronavirus cases.
The NCDC actually warned that the outcome of the looting we saw around and the mass gathering will manifest in a couple of 2 weeks. So that is the end time for us to look out whether it will actually manifest. But coming back to the US election, already out of the 97 million votes that have been cast, and the polls were indicating that Joe Biden was in the lead in the ratio of about 59% to 41%. But those are polls, and sometimes they can be very erroneous.
Those polls failed 4 years ago, Bayo. Don't cite the posters anymore.
Bayo, thank you. We'll see you
By tomorrow, the signals will be clear about the direction.
All right. Okay, Bayo Tebe, we'll sign him off. Thank you for being around.
Thank you too.
See you again tomorrow. Okay, it's Good Morning Nigeria, and we're live on network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We'll take a short break now. When we return, our conversation will be on the #EndSARS protests and restoring police morale.
All right, if you've just joined in, you're right in time for our conversation, and it's on Good Morning Nigeria on the network service. Today, our focus is on restoring, or if you may, rekindling police morale. So let's listen to this background report put together by our correspondent Aisha Obali.
Many Nigerians did not see it coming when groups of young people began peaceful protests demanding that government should disband the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS. It went on for weeks, spreading from state to state, with almost all states across the country suffering untold hardship. The protests were hijacked by hoodlums, which left government institutions and private firms destroyed. The security personnel saddled with the responsibility of protecting lives and property were not spared. Already, observers believe the welfare of the Nigerian police is an issue of concern. The question is, what can be done to rebuild the morale of these officers who suffered huge losses as a result of the protest? What can be done to see that the confidence and trust is rebuilt? Guests on Good Morning Nigeria will answer these and more shortly.
Many thanks, Aisha Obali, for that very brief, but of course incisive backgrounder to our conversation this morning. We have guests with us here in the studios as well as in Lagos, where we will begin the introduction of the guests. He's joining us again on this very important subject matter, retired Assistant Inspector General of Police, that's Bala Hassan. AIG, Bala Hassan, delighted to have you again on Good Morning Nigeria. And here with us in the Abuja studios, we'd like to welcome Romy Mon. He's the Commissioner in charge of Human Rights at the Police Service Commission. Pleasure to have you with us, Commissioner for Human Rights.
Thank you so very much. I'm happy to be here.
Okay.
And also, let's quickly introduce former Commissioner of Police, FCT, of course, who is retired but not tired. Let me welcome Lawrence Alobi to Good Morning Nigeria. Good to see you once again.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
And Kabiru Adamu is also here with us. He's a security risk management and intelligence specialist. Kabiru, always a pleasure to have you with us.
Good morning.
All right. Well, with the clear signals to Lagos, we might as well begin this conversation with AIG Bala Hassan, who, of course, is in retirement, but also very active still. AIG Bala Hassan, look, let's look at the scenario this way. In the aftermath of the mayhem that followed the NSAS protests, we saw that at least 22 police officers were unfortunately killed, and at least also 205 police stations were razed. And it turned out that the men and officers, on account of what had transpired, seemed unwilling to immediately return to their beats. And the Inspector General of Police issued a directive for the officers and men to return to their posts. But that seemed not to have been fully obeyed. What was playing out on the minds of the men and officers on the heels of the disaster?
In Nigeria, you see, as in Nigeria, attack on police stations and policemen, resulting to killing of several police officers and destruction of their barracks in many states, especially in the south, and southwest. This has been rather unfortunate in a situation whereby police doesn't have more. We don't have equipment, we don't have barracks, and upon that, these hoodlums went out of their way to carry out these dastardly acts. Well, anything that affects police anywhere in Nigeria affects every police, wherever you are. So police is one family. We shouldn't expect that because it happened in Lagos, and Rivers, and some Delta, and Edo, and some states. The police in the other part of the country, like in the north, will feel happy about it. So it's something that transcends a Lagos or southern phenomenon. All the police in Nigeria are one family and are affected. So what is expected is for the IG, which I have told reliably is coming down to Lagos to talk to the men, to show up their already dampened morale so that they'll be able to come up within the lane resources, because most of the arms have been looted, and where they don't even have, some of them have nowhere to stay. So upon all that, the IG will come and talk to them, but that shouldn't stop at an issue of IG matter. All other stakeholders should come and assist the IG in showing of the morale of the men. Various governments in all parts of the country should send letters of goodwill, messages, letter of condolences, if need be, visit the various police commissioners in the states, talk to the men so that so that the already dampened morale will be lifted to enable them to come and provide the needed services, because no society in the world can exist without police. There is no way. You cannot exist in Nigeria or anywhere without the function of Nigerian police force. That's why they need to show up this morale.
All right. Thank you very much, retired AIG Bala Hassan. Some of the points that you have raised, of course, we'll interrogate them in the course of the conversation. Just to indicate that there was a report that the Edo State Governor already visited the police command yesterday with a pledge to rebuild the police stations that were raised in the course of the mayhem, and also to pick out the bills of the officers. He actually also was at the State Police Command. I'm saying this because you were once in the course of your duty Commissioner for Police in Edo State, based in Benin City. Let's bring in now former Commissioner of Police, FCT, Lawrence Alobi. Retired Commissioner of Police, well, it appeared not to have been particularly visible here in the Federal Capital Territory, that the enthusiasm of men and officers of the police force had been dampened on account of the atrocities that we saw in some parts of the country. But still, there were consequences. What, in your opinion, transpired and is still probably lingering in the minds of policemen?
Thank you very much. You see, I'm happy that NTA is trying to identify and show empathy and concern over the gruesome murder of over 20 police officers, and they really said a lot of police stations were destroyed and arms scattered away. I also want to commend Wike and the governor of Edo State for showing empathy and coming out to identify with the police in this crisis, this moment that the police is being seen as an orphan. You see, life is based on the principle of reciprocity. That's why it is said, he wants equity, must do equity. You see, the police have been offering services, protecting life and property. And in life, there are two things that every human being will treasure highly. It's life and its property. And with any institution, anybody who protects your life and property, and nations are built on law and order. No nation can exist without law and order. So the police is there, the principal agency that maintains law and order for this country, to enable the government to function effectively for the benefit of the citizens. And that the police that is giving this service, sacrificing his life, toiling. If I know policeman works less than 12 hours in a day, and he's not paying a dime extra, like other agencies and institutions, when you work a minute after 8 hours, you are being paid allowances. But the policemen do this priceless, that kind of priceless sacrifice and contributions. The society now turn against it. It is unfortunate, but I'm happy that some of you, like the NTA is doing now, with this program, you are trying to create that consciousness, sensitize the Nigerians to understand that the police don't need to be treated the way they've been treated. The police need to be appreciated and encouraged. That's why the IG is going around, confidence building strategy, to reassure the Nigerian police officers and men that they are being appreciated by the society, that the government is all out to add value to their life, to motivate them, to provide their needs. Because you cannot ask a child to go and fetch water with bare hands. You need to give them the enablement. And Nigerian police over the decades have been so denied staff of funds, training, equipment, motivation. In fact, in other climes, policing is an elitist profession. But here in Nigeria, we're seen as downtrodden. Nobody regards us, the most tongue-lashed institution in the country. So I'm happy that the IG is going around. I'm happy that the NTA and other agencies, the Wike and Obaseki, and other Nigerians are now going to appreciate, like I said, life is based on the principle of reciprocity. He wants equity, must do equity. If Nigerians want Nigerian police to support them, they should also support Nigerian police and encourage them. It's a cycle. If you support the police and encourage them, provide the necessary equipment and the necessary logistics they need, they will perform better. And if you deny them that support, you are indirectly denying the society of security and law and order. In fact, what is happening in the country today is a consequence of the long-term neglect of the Nigerian police force in terms of training, in terms of funding, their barracks, their motivation. If everybody's unlashing the police, everybody's fighting the police. So I think we've learned a lesson. Nigerians have done, the government has also learned a lesson. The government, Mr. President has already pronounced, given his word, that Nigerian police is going to be a holistic reformation of the Nigerian police force to see about their salaries, their well-being, their families. Look at what has happened at these families, those who have been murdered. What happened to their families? Only we can basically have come to say, let's do this. But look, what is Amnesty International? And Nigerian police officers, not Nigerians, don't they deserve rights? Right to their life, right to carry their functions without threat or intimidation. See, with this kind of discriminatory approach to issues, it doesn't help us. It's not good. You see, truthfulness is the foundation of all virtues. Are we truthful in what we are doing? Is it, I mentioned international, what is MBA? What are all the stakeholders? What are they coming? What is civil society? Are they not there? You see, in life, for you to enjoy your right, you have to obey the law of God and laws of the land. You cannot have right or freedom when you don't comply with the rules of that is why Rousseau and John Locke, the theory of a social contract, that the citizens must have to forgo some of their rights to enable the state protect them. That is why life is based on principle of reciprocity. You have to sacrifice for you to be able to others to provide for you. So Nigerian police force needs actually to be encouraged. And I'm happy that is going around. And also people are now beginning to appreciate the need to motivate them, to encourage them, because the moral is really dampened down. So who will see his brother being killed and then you think he'll be motivated? If it could happen to him. You see, if you read Animal Farm by George Orwell, Boxer, it was the most effective animal in the farm. When Boxer, the first animal to appear in any function, he'd be last to leave. When he became old, he was only knackered. The other animals say, oh, is that how we're going to be treated too? So this is what it happens. It's a reality in life. It's not something it's not based on speculation. It's a reality you can see it's happened. So I think Nigerians should stand up for the police, and the police should also be reassured that they will never be abandoned, and let that spirit be rekindled, and so that they can keep on performing the duty for the benefit of Nigerian society. Because the citizens are the one who benefit.
All right.
If there is security, the citizens benefit. If there is security, the citizens will lose.
Sipi, thank you. Thank you. And I'm wondering how many people will remember Boxer. Boxer is actually one of the characters in George Orwell's Animal Farm, for those of you who read the novel. Very interesting. Kabiru, in the heat of the crisis, there was an order from the IG to his men to stand down, and they did. Is that being carried forward? And then in some states, state executives are practically begging, the policemen to go back to duty. And, well, it might not be visible, as Kingsley said, here in the FCT. Indeed, in most of the, satellite towns, we still see police officers, interacting with the communities. So what are you reading? What are you reading? What do you think is the underlying, trigger for this action?
Thank you, Claire. I would want to start my statement by relating this to a call I received after one of the appearances I did here. A childhood friend of mine, who is currently serving in Lagos as a policeman, called me and said, why is it that we're not representing the police? That since this issue started, the NSAS, and he reminded me that the irony of the NSAS protest is that they were complaining about the service being provided by the police, and that at the end of the protest, more damage has been done to the police institution than before the protest started. He described it as ironical, and that brought home to me the feeling of the average policeman. At the beginning of the NSAS protest, they could relate with some of the demands and complaints by the police, but unfortunately, by the 12th day of the protest, they were victims of whatever it was that hijacked the NSAS protest. Some of the figures have been reeled out, 205 facilities. As a date, I do not think we have a record of the police formations that have been destroyed. I know that on the 30th of October.
Accurate record.
Accurate record. The 30th of October, the Inspector General of Police set up a committee to go around and assess the losses by the police. Now, that is a good step. Identify the losses, and then, based on that, use that information to now move forward. How do you need, what kind of reconstruction, what kind of support do you need to give all those services? Now, to answer your question directly, and I want Nigerians to think about this, police formations have been destroyed. Now, how do these police work? They can't go and, start working under the sunlight, and in this very inclement weather, as it were, unfortunately. So it's actually ironic that the same thing we're complaining about, we've now added more problems to it, because frankly, they can't go out and work when they don't have facilities. In some instances, their records have been destroyed, their case records, their vehicles have been destroyed, their communication facilities. Lagos is beginning to compile some of these records. Now, so much has happened that ordinarily can affect the morale of the police. But we also need to remember that beyond these physical issues that we are talking about in terms of the consequence for the police force itself, what of the social aspect? For instance, the last time the Lagos governor went round to do an assessment of the damages, I saw families of policemen that were killed actually complaining. So there is a lot of issues, that we need to contend with. The physical damage, the emotional consequences of some of the actions, then the financial burden on the families that have been affected. Now, with all of this together, there are so many things I think that can be done. I'm very happy that, like the Inspector General of Police has done, that committee's work is really, really essential. And that I'm hoping that at the end of that committee's work, we will have a credible record that will tell us this is the damage.
We'll take it step by step. We'll look at, because the title of this program is Restoring or Rekindling the Morale of the Policemen. And we'll look at some of the steps that have been taken so far, and then, of course, in the short and in the long run. Kabiru, thank you. Mr. Mo, how do you react to, we'll also like a perspective to that question. What do you think is the I don't want to say reason, is the trigger for the reluctance of the policemen, some of the policemen, to go back to work? Do you think that they have come to some sort of realization?
Well, I believe that you are first and foremost a human being before you are a police officer. And sanctity of life, to preserve self-preservation, is innate in every human being. And so when police officers are killed in the line of duty and their places of work razed to the ground and all of that, and you want same police officers again to go out on the street and police the street, it becomes a very tall order for a human. We shouldn't lose sight of that. These officers are men, they have families, they have blood, and all of that, like every other human being. And so when that happens, it becomes very difficult for officers to begin to say they'll go out on the street and begin to police the street, knowing that their lives are still in danger, so to speak. Even in Abuja now, you have police officers, dressing in mufti, and only when they're in their offices do they wear their uniforms. So it's not so a very good sign. And as Kabiru said, the thing about society is law and order. And if you remove the police officers from the society, you're going to have anarchy, you're going to have arson. Everything that we've preached against will be the order of the day. So for me, I think it's not out of place that you're saying what you're saying now. We need to begin to build and motivate officers, begin to put in places those things that will give them some sense of motivation to go back to work, some sense of security, some sense of the fact that I can come back and meet my wife and my kids home alive and safe. I think those are the issues that we need to look at very closely. And also that even if I do lose my life in the course of my work, my family are not just left the way they are or the way they should be, because right now, that is where we are going to police officers. Is it the ones that died in Jalingo when they went to arrest a kidnapper, that were mistakenly killed? What is the fate of their families today and all of that? All these are issues we need to look at if we're talking about motivation. These, like I said, are not police officers. They are first and foremost human beings, and we must learn to relate from that prism. Then we can appreciate the fact that these are not numbers, these are people.
All right, thank you very much, Rami. I just, gentlemen, again, beginning with the police officers, let's go back to Lagos. AIG Bala Hassan. I was just wondering, do we have a history of any event such as we have witnessed this year, say in the month of October 2020, where you had such violent attacks on police facilities and police personnel? Of course, social media has come in now, and the gory sites were sometimes recorded. But have you had this kind of uprising in the past, if you like, hoodlum uprising against law enforcement officers in the country? It appears so unique and therefore something shocking, not just to the police institution itself, but to reasonable men and women in society.
Well, in my 34.5 years service in the Nigerian police force, I've never had such gruesome attacks and wanton destruction of property, targeted mainly at Nigerian police force by hoodlums. But you have issues whereby you have a crisis situation as a commissioner of police, but you have to come up and see that the situation is brought under control. But of this magnitude, definitely I've not come across it. But then, in everywhere there is injury, there must be a solution to it. And the idea is to see that those are men whose spirit has been dampened. We have to look for solution to see that we show up their morale, not only in the south, as I earlier said, all part of the country. If something affects a police officer in this part of the country, it affects everywhere. So it's our responsibility to see that, no, don't leave this thing to the IG alone. Other stakeholders, the Police Service Commission, the various governors throughout Nigeria, just like the governor of Rivers and Edo have done. They shouldn't say that because it doesn't affect their state. They should reach out the command, meet with the commissioners, talk to them so that they can show up. The morale of the men is throughout Nigeria, and the morale is low. So if they do that, I'm sure it will be better for the Nigerian police force. And of course, we should look at other agencies like the Police Trust Fund, who supposed to look at the welfare of the police officers because they want to see something. They should walk the talk. They are set. They have been assigned money since last year to carry out duties to reform the police. We want to see action so that it should be instantaneous. You can't say, okay, I want to boost all the morale of the men. Then you are postponing these things. If these things are, we started seeing these things immediately, those ones that can be seen. I know building a barrack is not a one-day affair or replacing of those arms, but then the one that can be done immediately should be seen by the men, like goodwill messages from the commission, from the various governors and various stakeholders to the various commissioners of police in the states, to the IG, to the men, talking to the men. I'm sure it will show up their morale, and they will come back and work for the betterment of their country. They are patriotic citizens. Many have died in the course of duty, and for less. Nobody cares. A police officer dies, what burial expenses, 100,000 for junior officers, 200,000 for inspector to CSP, 300,000 from assistant commissioner to commissioner of police. Even though the money looks small, even the way to get it out of the system is very laborious. So these are the measures we have to take now to see that police officers' morale are being brought. If something happens, in their days, when something happens to police like that, the deputy commissioner of police has money to bring out the money as impressed, give it to the family, they will go and take care of their needs. But now, the bureaucracy, you have to fill this form, take this in here. Sometimes it is even the head of department of that particular police officer that will contribute money to go and bury a police officer. So that is itself is demoralizing. And with what has happened now, it has further demoralized the Nigerian policemen. But we hope with this, things will be better. And our prayer is that it should be instantaneous. We have so many recommendations that will help the police to be better. But these are some of the things. You see, even the pension. If a police officer knows that by the time he leaves the service, it's better for him than even inside, he will be willing to put on his best. But whereby when you leave the service, you get a meager salary as pension. I read where a commissioner of police said that his pension is 73,000 per month. You can imagine a retired commissioner who has served country for 35 years. So these are some of the things we hope the things that will show up the morale of the men. You can't serve your country for so long a time and end up, okay, what happened to the junior men? Some of them get as low as 20,000 to 30,000, I think. So these are some of the things that must be immediate. You must assure the policeman that even after service, he's being loved, he's being taken care of. He can give the best for you. But for now, we should tell them that we care about them. They are human beings, they are Nigerians. They should work for their country. They should come out of their shell now. We are all together so that they can serve. Because our warning, this is an ember month period. People are afraid of going to the east by December. And now, with what is happening in Benin, about 2,000 criminals have been escaped. Raided police station, carry guns, carry uniform, and December is coming. I can assure you, not a prophet of doom. It will be a very tough Christmas for this period. So something must be done and fast. We should walk the talk and let the police officers who are already disenchanted get their morale boost up before we reach December. Otherwise, we may have a very, very difficult situation in our hands.
Okay, thank you very much, AIG. Let's come back also to CP Lawrence Alobi. What's your take? I mean, we've seen some solutions being profiled there by AIG Bala Hassan. But you served, of course, much longer and retired also for a much longer period. Just tell us, have you witnessed or have you known of any previous assault against the police institutions, such as we witnessed in the month of October in several parts of the country?
Not at all. I served for 35 years and I retired. This is my 14-year retirement. I've never witnessed such a situation. Sometimes when the police go into a crisis situation, they might be that because you're confronting, you don't want to maintain law and order. The other party or the criminals want to fight back. But this kind of organized, well-organized and collective effort against the police as an institution, I've never observed, I've never seen it before. It's a new development, and I think we should check it. Because, like I said, crime is against the society. When they are, the police is closer institution of the government to the people, and if you attack the police, you are indirectly attacking the government. And the crime is a transgression against society and the people. So I think what has happened now, we should learn. The government should take it, address it seriously. because otherwise, my friend said, we're an invitation to an anarchy, because it is not safe at all for us. Like my AIG said, now arms are in the hands of criminals. We're already fighting the problem of illegal proliferation of illegal arms, in the country. Now we have now enriched them. They now have more arms. Some even took up the police uniform and so forth. Like Mr. Kabiru said, when he said police to go back to work, 217 police stations burned. Are they going to be sit outside and do their work? Are they going to sit outside? It's really very demoralizing. But I'm happy that, like I said earlier, Nigerians are becoming conscious, like what the NTA is doing now, and the IG is going around to that capacity building, that is confidence building strategy to make sure reassure the men that the country is behind them, government is behind them, and please let the government walk their talk. Not just this issue of promising anything happens, making political statements. They should make it. It should make it the ring that show that they are ready to be trusted. Because this is how also the government can also build its own confidence before the citizens. Because already there's that trust deficit. Citizens don't believe in the government, they don't believe in the institution. So when the government walk their talk and fix the police, you see, even the youth saw it that the police has been so destroyed over the years, particularly with the long-term military regime military rule in this country. The police were brought down. And the youth saw it that, the police need to be reformed. And it's not just lip service. It is a holistic and based on international bed standard. Their salaries, their welfare, everything should be based on bed standard. It's Abraham Maslow in theory of motivation, talk about physiological needs, their barracks, their accommodation, their offices, social needs. How does the society look at them? They need the society to appreciate them. Even the ant is egoistic. So you need to be appreciated. How do you get fulfillment? How do you get self-esteem? When you have been so debased, you are really down. You're seen as Mr. Nobody. So I think, like I said, life is based on the principle of reciprocity. Let us ensure that let us have a holistic reformation to ensure that all aspects of your life. When I was a junior officer, if you move out for your duty, you are given dry ration. If you are transferred from one location to another location, given what they call disturbance allowance. And if you go for a duty, you are given disturbance allowance. Even 28 days, you stay in a hotel, you are being paid. You don't exist any longer. Now, if a policeman is at the police station, comes to report the case, there's no money for him to go and apprehend the suspect. And if you have to look for someone to apprehend the suspect, maybe there's a district called armed robbery somewhere. You call the police station. There's no fuel in the vehicle. The policeman have to fuel the vehicle. There are a lot of things that need to be done holistically from the police station. At least the police station the DPO should have its own impress, like this IG has just recommended. Direct impress should give them direct. Look, in some state, you have to go and beg a governor to give you support, which is not supposed to be so. The governor swore in oath of office, and in Section 14 says that private post of government is security and well-being of the citizens. And someone who is not providing security for you don't appreciate him. It's a paradox. So I think Nigerians should actually appreciate that the police is key and central in the sustenance of democracy, in the well-being of this nation, and they should actually be appreciated and motivated to make sure that we, the police, know that they are there to serve, and they are, like I said, it's priceless service. They are sacrificing. If I tell you how much I'm being paid for my pension, you wonder. After giving my beautiful life to the nation.
Please don't tell us.
No, I don't want to tell you because you'll not be happy. That's why I will not tell you. So I'm saying that Nigerian government should look at this thing critically, not based on emotional sentiment, but look at based on the fact, the reality of life, what people are putting in, the sacrificing. A policeman is alienated from his family because he has no time for his family. He's always on duty. Sometimes you be with your wife on your bed, they call you, it's a crisis. You leave your wife and go and attend to the crisis. And then sometimes you don't have time for your children, for your family. This bonding, because you're always being demanded, the pressure on you is so much for you to attend to society. And this same society you're attending to, sacrificing for, is now the one that is now brutalizing you, is now trying to destroy you. So I think, like I said, life is based on the principle of reciprocity. He wants equity, must do equity. So Nigerians, please, appreciate the police and support the IG. Let us motivate them. not just unlashing the police. Like I said, I've not seen any editorial comment in any print media about this. I was 8 yesterday. I've not seen any of the televisions when it's okay commentary on this and so forth. What is, like I said, what is Amnesty International? The police are human beings. They also have right to their life, right to carry their duties without intimidation. So why should they not be treated this differently? So
Okay,
I think we should appreciate them. And I want to encourage my officer and my colleagues in the Nigerian police force, please come back. Your services have been appreciated.
Thank you, Sepi. Thank you, Sepi. And let me come back to Kabiru Adamu. And I think that probably the first step in rekindling morale is probably to work on the psyche of the policemen. And if you listened carefully, the common thread, coming out from our conversation is Nigerians. And that's the impression that the police officers have, that probably there's a love lost between them and the generality of Nigerians. But from intelligence perspective, if you consider the very coordinated nature of the attacks and what actually was stolen beyond the burning of the station, the infrastructure itself, what was carried away, the uniforms and the weapons and all that, what would you be telling the Nigerian police, the policemen now? Is there really love lost between the Nigerian people and the policemen?
We need to separate the institution of the police from the conduct of the police that Nigerians were not happy with. And so I think this is to the leadership of the police. The language that needs to go out now is one that seeks to separate what Nigerians didn't like, which is clear. The NSAS was very clear about what they didn't like, and a lot of Nigerians resonated with that. So we need to, going forward, in terms of strategic communication, separate that Nigerians didn't like, and then what we want as Nigerians as the ideal police. And everybody knows what the ideal police is. That police, I'll give you a practical experience that happened to me in Europe. We were in a vehicle, and then one of the service vehicles, the vendor, was offloading. And then all of a sudden, we were completely blocked on my lane. Completely. For about 5 minutes, we were waiting for the vehicles coming from this other side to allow us to pass. From nowhere, a patrol police vehicle came by, saw what was happening, and to my utter amazement, stopped the other lane and allowed us to pass. That for me is what an ideal police should be. Recognize the rights of the citizens and then seek to protect the rights of the citizens. So I think in terms of strategic communication going forward, there is a need for the leadership of the police to separate what was complained about and then what we want going forward. We do appreciate the role of the police. From an intelligence point of view, that everybody knows that there is no society that can subsist without the police. So we want the police, but we want a police that is responsive to the needs of the average Nigerian. And going forward, that's what I hope for. Now, with regards to, from an intelligence and analysis, the major thing that came out from the what appears to be a coordinated attack on our policing system is the need for a better crisis management strategy. Resilience is one language that came up. I was listening to the MD of the Nigerian Ports Authority. She said something that resonated. Her facilities were able to bounce back almost in minutes after the attack on the headquarters. That is resilience. Every organization should have that kind of capability, and it is crisis management. So I think this is an opportunity for the police to look inwards and ask itself, what can we do even when our facilities are attacked? Because let's remember, just to make a comment around the earlier question you asked, it's a global wave that we're experiencing. Unfortunately, that is targeting the police. The George Floyd incident gave us that indication, when a lot of police facilities were attacked in the US. And then globally, we saw that kind of reaction. Perhaps it's also the same thing that is coming to Nigeria. So this is here to stay. And then we need to come up with a crisis management strategy that builds resilience within almost all our organizations, including the police. Unfortunately, damages can occur, But then how do you bounce back even when those damages occur? So as an example, case files that have been destroyed, that is something significant that as Nigerians we need to start thinking about. A lot of criminals that are being investigated, if the case files are destroyed, how do you continue the investigation? So how do we transit from our current manual method to a more digital method that would have fallbacks even when that is destroyed? Do you now have a record that you can draw from? This is a moment for, I think, the police leadership to ask critical questions around crisis management so that that resilience that would allow it to function even after such damages have occurred, we have that capability. It would require a lot, and I'm hoping that the police trust fund that has that responsibility to support such things will look into that critical area so that we have a Class A crisis management program or whatever we're going to call it for the police service as a whole that would allow it to function even where it is threatened the way it was threatened during this crisis.
Well, Dr. Kabir Adamu, I'm tempted to stay with you, and I will, so that we can also look at the aspect of the threat that citizens and indeed our communities face. AIG Bala Hassan already reminded us that we are in the ember months. And the CP Alobi here says, look, we never had sufficient equipment in the past, but the hoodlums have also raided our armories and raised our stations and carted away all of these elements. You talked about two things in terms of appropriate communication at this time. One, let the police know that citizens didn't like certain aspects of their conduct, NSAS. But as an institution, there is a necessity for having the police. But the institution is also men, women, and facilities and equipment. That necessity has been emphasized, as I said, by AIG Bala Hassan. We are entering the festive season, the holiday season. And I don't want to refer to some of the social media posts that I've read. There are notorious spots and routes. And already there are indications that some of the vagabonds are having a field day and there is no security response. Do we know what we have on our hands if we do not quickly shore up the morale of the police and then get them back on the beat as quickly as possible before the bad guys run us out of town?
From the level of governance, I think, yes, we do. The kind of meetings that are ongoing. I mean, just yesterday, the Northern Governors had a meeting, and the outcome of the meeting was quite instrumental. 2 committees have been set up, one for engagement with the youth, and then the other one for traditional rulers. So yes, we do appreciate the significance of where we are. But I think we need to speak about it more and frankly, the whole of government. The executive, the legislative, and then the judicial arm of government. One of the things that I'm hoping we would see, the panels of inquiry, the state-level panels that have been set up. I mean, nothing wrong from the police also submitting its own petitions to those panels. That's a way of shoring up the confidence of the police. 22 police officers were killed. Nothing wrong with the IG or the Police Service Commission going to those panels and submitting petitions for restitution for those 22 persons that were killed. I know the irony is who would take responsibility for that? But like I said in my earlier contributions, someone somewhere needs to take responsibility. Somebody instigated those type of attacks. And the key here is intelligence. We need to revamp our intelligence capabilities going forward. There are so many things around intelligence, but it's not the remit for this discussion, so I'll not go into it. I'll leave it at that. We need to revamp our intelligence capabilities so that at the end of the day, we nip whatever is being planned. Even this, the armories that have been broken into and the guns stolen, intelligence can tell you where those weapons are. Those people are not ghosts. They subsist with us. And so intelligence should be able to generate information where those people are planning certain actions, and then you are proactive, you stop it. So that means the type of language I'm hearing about community policing, this is the time to enhance it so that at least members of the society know that they have a function. At the end of the day, we need to protect ourselves. So sharing that kind of information with the police will be useful to us. But then again, the most important thing, I think, going into the Ember month is coordination by the security agencies. In my previous conversations with you here, I've mentioned to you that there are about 27 organizations that are involved in security. This is the time for all those 27 to work together in a coordinated manner. Some of them actually carry out policing functions, such as the civil defense, road safety, and a few others. This is the time for them to come together, have a strategic meeting that would now define roles, and then they move together. We cannot afford to go into the Ember months with the way we are currently. The prognosis, the assessment tells us, just like AIG Bala has mentioned, it tells us that criminal activities, unfortunately, are on the increase. And then with the kind of weaponry at the disposal of some of the criminals, it means the likelihood that there will be more criminal activities in the Ember period. Before I end my statement, it's important to note that the police is actually recovering some of these weapons that were stolen. At the last time, I think about 11 have been recovered. But then again, more is out there. So there is need for intelligence to determine where those weapons are and then to recover them.
Thank you, Dr. Damu. Let me bring in Rumi. This question is for you, and on the strength of Kingsley's question, and of course the concerns that he alluded to with regards to the Ember months. What, in your view, should be or can be done in the short run to shore up the morale of police officers and get them back, to duty? I know that some state governments have, taken some very commendable, initiatives, like, of course, the River State government, we know, recognized the families of some of the families of the slain policemen, made some donations to them, offered to build the police stations. Are those enough to shore up the morale of our policemen in the immediate?
I think it's very important at such times to do some sort of form of reflection. It's only when you reflect on issues that you can take some steps forward. How did we get to where we are now? And one thing we've all have agreed here is that information could have been better in shoring up trust between the police and Nigerians. That is really very critical. And if you look at the way the police is structured and the way the police-civilian relationship, one structure that stands between the two is the Police Service Commission. Now, the Police Service Commission is made up of almost all interest groups. You have women groups, you have the civil society, you have organized private sector, you have women, you have the judiciary, you also have the police that are represented in the Police Service Commission. And of course, we do know again that the Police Service Commission are the employers of the police in Nigeria today. So, for me, it's critical how citizens engage the police through the commission. And it's going forward. This is why, for example, the Police Service Commission is about to embark on, state-by-state visits to meet these interest groups and have conversation. Farm out the worries and anxiety of the citizens into the police and into the executive arm of government, and vice versa, so that when the structures are open and conversation continues, we'll eventually get to that level where we'll have some sort of trust being built. Like I said, this is upon reflection.
Isn't what you're saying, isn't this part of the long-term initiative? We're looking at getting the policemen back on the road. This is November. In just a few, should I say, a few days, if you may, December will roll in. So we need the police. There is evidence that the police, it has become necessary to get our police back on the road. So what can be done in the immediate?
I think in the immediate, what we have done as the Police Service Commission is to appeal, because this is all about appeal. We've appealed to police officers to go back to work. But more importantly, what I'm talking about is starting as early as next week, where we are going from state to state to have conversations with commissioners of police, to have conversations with citizens, we need to sit around the table to agree that, look, we all made mistakes. And now is the time to right those mistakes in the interest of our country. We need to move forward. So these are not long-term. These are short-term in terms of communications first and foremost must be open, sustained, and built towards sustaining some sort of trust. And if that does not happen, we will as well be going around in circle, which is also what the IG is doing. Also thinking about going around and speaking to officers. So I think for me, at the time now, what is important is engaging the officers, engaging interest groups, engaging citizens, for like what we are doing here. For example, this is another critical element of it. We need to understand that as the ember months are here, we need to be policed very well. We need to understand that there are arms out there that are in wrong hands and all of that. And so when this conversation is had and citizens themselves are made to be aware that they stand at the risk at the end of the whatever is going to come that is wrong, then the intelligence we're talking about will begin to come in. People will, will give intelligence, will give reports that says, look, I think Mr. A or Ms. B is harboring arms that were taken from here, or there are police uniforms here and there. All these things are within the communities. They are not somewhere else. And if the communities are made to be aware through conversations that this is where we may be going with the state we're in now, then that intelligence can begin to come to play. But most important for me, like I said, is that we need to bring in that structures. It has to be structural. And I say that the Police Service Commission, as of now, appears to be that, that structure that the Constitution has put in place, where all citizens groups are represented, that can farm these concerns into government and take it the other way. And I'm happy that because of what has happened, because of the lessons we have learned, these conversations will continue very soon, and it won't just be because of what has happened now. It will sustain going forward, and hopefully we'll come to that level where we'll move in some few notches up to the level where we will accept that, oh, well, from the resources we have, from where we are, this is a level we can continue to build upon.
Well, Ron, I stay with you. Last week on Good Morning Nigeria, when we were discussing aspects of the NSAS protests, a professor of psychology joined us from our Ibadan Network Center. And he said something about utilizing professionals during seasons such as we have found ourselves. This is clearly, from what has happened, a rude awakening to all the institutions, to what they need to do, and so on and so forth. I was just wondering, you say as early as next week, the PSC, that's the Police Service Commission, will be doing the rounds. The Inspector General of Police, we also understand, will also be doing the rounds. Are you likely to, or have you given consideration to even contacting the National Association of Psychologists to be part of your team to offer you expert advice in these very trying times? Because the trauma that the police institution has suffered is unprecedented, and the losses are clearly unquantifiable in the meantime.
I think that is a very, very good point you've raised, because it's a conversation that for me is like we're touching something that it will just open up and, we just keep going deeper and deeper. When we talk about mental health, is something that is an issue in Nigeria as a whole, but more particularly with the police officers, and because they handle rifles, they handle guns, they handle arms and all of that. So it even starts from the point of recruitment. How do we approach those issues? Because when we talk about motivation and all of that, it is a two-way thing. And so for me, with regard to the present issues, as we go out, how about the families of the slain officers? How about the friends of the slain officers who are still in the force? So the issue of mental health cuts across both ends, and we need to identify those who need it and profile it. And I'm happy that you've brought this up, because it's an issue that came up but was not very well tackled. The question was, as we are now, who requires that mental health support much in the short term, in the immediate, but then again in the long term, how do we do it? So for me, I think it's about coming up with a policy, and I'm happy that the Police Service Commission has the powers to develop policies and implement them for effective policing of Nigeria. That's one of the mandates, to develop policies and implement. That is huge. So for me, I guess this issue of mental health that is now coming to the fore because of what we're seeing is such that we need to develop a holistic policies that starts from when you are recruited to periodic assessment down to when you go into retirement and even post-retirement. These are issues that are critical. In Nigeria today, have you noticed that what we notice on the road are people, this road rage, people driving against traffic when there's a little traffic jam, this one of, being really getting so angry. They are all evidence of lack of mental health of lots of persons out there on the road. And so mental health for me is an issue in this country. And I think the National Association needs to also drive this point home aggressively. Nigerian and especially our security forces, the issue of mental health is cardinal. And for me, each issue brings to us a point where we need to sit back and reflect. Going forward is the most important thing, not what has happened. That is just history. But we have to lean on history to be better tomorrow. And so for me, the issue of mental health is a window of opportunity. We need to learn from it, go forward, and make it as wide as possible so we could have stable and mentally healthy citizens on the street.
Okay, Rami, thank you. When we come back from this break, I would also like you to tell us in the immediate what has been done, because part of the demands of NSAS protest was, of course, for the welfare of the police officers to be taken care of, their barracks, where they live. I mean, I have been in police barracks, and I can tell you my experience. So we want to know from you, what are you thinking with respect to where they live, how they live, and other matters that may arise. But that will be after we come back from this break.
All right, welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria. We're reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. As my colleague Claire indicated, we have a number of tweets that have come in from our viewers. We'll go through those tweets now and then return to our guests. Claire, this one, all right, it's a Twitter handle. It seems a bit scary. It says savage by nature. Could you find a more polite way or a less scary way of identifying yourself? But it's a very important message that he has. As you pass by any policeman, stop and say a kind word. Words of encouragement to them. This is part of how we can rebuild the confidence of our police force, whose lives are on the line for our sake, and that Nigeria remains one united country.
And our next Twitter handle says at Ibrahim77446710. We can't afford to cut and throw away our rotten hands. We still have to manage it. We can't also throw away the baby with the bath water. It is our collective responsibilities to sanitize the NPF, help in recruiting the right people for the job.
Akeju Olagbaju, there is a correlation between low morale and poor performance of the police force. The immediate cause can be traced to leaders of such formations. Where such occurs, it also points to the fact that reform is necessary or that the reform is not working. Low morale status is reversible.
And Festus Akimboewa tweets, there is enough reason for the entire police to be demoralized if government does not quickly rebuild. Poor police pay and conditions, killing and injuring of police officers, burning down of police station, patrol vehicles by hoodlums, and hijacked the legitimate NSAS protest. Okay, says government should fix all damaged police stations, take care of the injured police officers, and compensate the families of the dead ones, and more importantly, address the poor pay and conditions of police officers. We risk losing many good officers leaving the job.
Suleiman Babagana tweets, renovation of police barracks and construction of new ones as done by other security outfits should be a priority of the police leadership as it tends to boost the morale of officers and men in so many ways. And
Clifford Agosi, if a Nigerian soldier, Army, Navy, or Air Force commits crime or runs foul of the law in any way, I would expect the police to pick the fellow up and let the proper course of the law take its course. This will take time, no doubt, but it can be done, and I pray this happens.
Well, Clifford has another tweet there. This speaks more directly to the issue of police morale. It says, in other climes, police morale is top-notch. I would like to see this replicated here, but the police must prove itself worthy to deserve the total trust of Nigerians. A holistic approach will involve policy, legal, infrastructural measures, and interestingly, the Police Act was recently passed. Governments at all levels must have the political will to help this process.
Okay, Sulaiman Babagana, renovation of police barracks and construction of new ones as done by other security outfits should be a priority of the police leadership, as it tends to boost the morale of officers and men in so many ways.
Fire me, Eddie. What I know is that if the police is diligent and transparent with their duty, corruption would drop by 70%. You report a case to the police and you follow, and to follow you, they will collect fuel money, and they stop collecting money from drivers. You ask the police to track your stolen food. All the police needs to do is to see us as the friends, which they claim, so that when they say that the police indeed your friends, that is truly so, and bail should be free.
Abdul, adequate training, reorientation, and reorganization of the force should be considered in earnest. The welfare of policemen and women in all ramifications should be well catered for without delay.
All right, Claire, I think those are the tweets that we can manage in the meantime. I know you had put Romy on notice with regard to a critical aspect of welfare, which has to do with their habitation, the barracks in which they live, the allowances which have been touched on, and so on and so forth. So if you don't mind, I would still like to put him on pause so you can return to that. I want to get back to AIG Bala Hassan in terms of operational, if you like, short-term or immediate solutions. We have seen the examples of some of the state governors in meeting with the police command, police commissioner, and other officers in their states. But what we do know is that aside from the stations that were burnt, a number of police vehicles were also incinerated by the hoodlums. I was just wondering what role, I mean, as a commissioner of police, you were a member of the State Security Council. What role can be played almost immediately in deploying resources from, say, the State Security Council and indeed other private donors who had in the past offered the police with operational vehicles and all that, considering the urgent circumstances in which we have found ourselves in the wake of the mayhem by hoodlums against the police authorities?
Well, in this event, the immediate help should come from the governors of various states, where they can dip into the security fund and get them new patrol vehicles in the next couple of days for them to commence patrol. But you see, when you have physical structures, you have patrol vehicles, when the morale of the men is low, it cannot, the two must match themselves, because the morale of the men are ready to come back to work, then we have the physical structures, new patrol vehicles. I know the governors can get this in for the men, but before then, within these few days, as IG is going around, the Police Service Commission is going around, we should boost the morale of the men. And it should not be just mere talk, as the Commissioner of Police has said. It's not, there should be concrete action. Like most of the worries of the police officers, apart from low pay, is the uncertainty when they come outside. I was a Commissioner of Police for 6 years, AIG for 4 years. As the CP has said, the retired Commissioner of Police has said, I can't tell you what I earn every month as a pension. Talk less of a junior person who retired as superintendent or inspector of police. So these things, they should talk to the men practically as they go around, the Police Service Commission, the IG when he goes to talk to them, and also the chairman of Police Trust Fund too, because he has the responsibility, he has the money. He should also equally go out, maybe after the chairman of Police Service Commission has gone to other states, to go and talk to the men, because he is the one who has the money, who has the legal backing to deploy these resources to ensure that new barracks are built for the police, even vehicles are built, training and other things, all within the fair view of the Police Trust Fund. So to get the police to start off again, the governors, the various governments should as a matter of urgency, donate some vehicles to Nigerian police. It doesn't take out the responsibility of other stakeholders like these multinationals like Shell, Ajib, all those fuel companies to come and assist the police, so that in the next couple of days you will see robust patrol on our streets to ensure that people get peaceful Christmas and normalcy has returned to the Nigerian police.
Again, Romy Kisley has prompted me to put you on hold. We'll get back to you to give us your views on the questions I raised earlier on. But Kabiru, you listened to the former Bala Hassan. He talked about the need for a concrete action right now to motivate the policemen. But some of the issues that he also raised, are they not part of what has been engraved in the police trust fund, which should take some time? Like, for instance, their welfare pay package, pension services and all that.
Yeah, my understanding of the police trust fund is will address three major areas: facility, welfare, and then training for the police. And as far as I know, they are trying to come up with measures, policies for the implementation of these three major areas. But with regards to the issue of our discussion, I have some immediate recommendations for the police leadership, like almost all countries do, and even some other security organizations within Nigeria. As an example, a cenotaph should be built for fallen officers, where a symbolic gesture would go a long way towards telling any officer that dies that we recognize you, and this is the true tribute we're giving to you. Some would even go ahead and put up, where stars would be pasted with the name of that officer, aside from that cenotaph, on that wall too, which I'm sure some organizations in Nigeria have. Then there's nothing wrong with declaring a day where our flag would fly at half-mast for those 2022 fallen officers. Now, those are all symbolic, but from a welfare point of view, whatever the current policy of the police, the police says with regards to the monies that should be provided to those 22 families, as a matter of urgency, those monies should be made available, and we should see it perhaps in a national broadcast where the checks or the monies are being given to those family members. Now, all those are symbolic as a way of boosting the morale of serving officers. Then, with regards to facilities, there is nothing wrong with having what I would call makeshift police divisions. In the interim, state governors can help in that regard. We document all the destroyed or burned divisions and then provide temporary sites where these divisions can now start working from. Those temporary sites can either be separate or even existing divisions where you now match two divisions to work together if they can co-locate, depending on the circumstances of each. But there needs to be an immediate solution to that. Because like I said earlier on, these officers cannot work under the sun. Facilities need to be provided for them. And then, of course, in terms of equipment, like the AIG has mentioned, vehicles, police cannot work without those equipment. So there needs to be a temporary arrangement where those equipment will be provided. I will still go back to the committee that was set up by the Inspector General of Police. That committee is instrumental because that committee is meant to come up with a strategic plan for the implementation of all of this. But like I mentioned, some symbolic gestures to show the police that the management itself feels their loss.
In other parts of the world, you talked about recognizing the slain policemen. You could also have communities come out, have candle lit, for the repose of the dead, and this kind of brings the community and the policemen together. So is there a role for community also in all of this restoration of police morale?
There is definitely a role, and that role cannot be overemphasized, especially as we're beginning to talk about community policing. Any community that has a very good relationship with its police personnel by now know the officers that are down. And so this is the time, for instance, to show that gesture of love that we are known for as Nigerians, show to the family, to the police institution as a whole. Like I said earlier on, that strategic communication that separates the bad from the good. We know what was bad. Nobody is in doubt about that. But we also know that we need the police. So communities, this is the time to show love. Reach out to those families. Show love either from a religious point of view or from a human point of view. Emphasize the point that, yes, we recognize your loss and we'll be there for you to support you in your time of need.
All right, Dr. Kabir Adamu, thanks a lot. Romy, Commissioner on Human Rights of the Police Service Commission, tell us something about what officers and men could expect in a revamped welfare scheme through your commission.
Yeah, I think most importantly, before I go to that, there is the issue of the laws that we have now that also try to speak to motivation at the lower level for police officers. I'm very happy, for example, that with the issue of resource allocation, you're going to have some sort of direct monies going to state commands and by extension, divisional police offices, so that you don't have to wait for the IG's office for the red tapeism for it to drive all the way down. This is why, for example, officers sometimes go to work and they don't even have papers to take complaints on and all of that. I think if we begin to have state commands receive direct resources allocation at that level, and it's cascades down to divisional police officers, you're going to have officers motivated to do their work. What's the essence of being in the police station and someone comes and you don't even have a pen and a paper to take down the person's complaint? So these are very critical. Also, the structures within the police. Motivation is not only after you're passed, it's also while you're performing your work. When police officers go for issues like election monitoring, special services, and all of that, and we hear stories of the fact that, oh, we haven't been paid, and government sometimes says, look, these monies have been paid. How do we remove those red tapeism so that once police officers are going for this kind of duties, they are motivated? The money goes all the way down and quickly too. So you don't have hungry police officers, for example, monitoring and providing security to an elections and all of that, or on special services. So we need to find a way of unplugging all those bottlenecks so that these resources go all the way down. Allegations of impropriety are removed and all of that. That is really very critical in motivation for men and women of the force. But having said that, for me, is the issue of facilities, which we mentioned earlier. You see, one of the most traumatizing experiences I've had as a Nigerian, upon inauguration into the board of, into the Police Service Commission, we made some visits to a few police colleges. And what I saw began to drive home to me that we cannot expect anything more from police officers of that rank. Because we dehumanize our police officers during training. There is nothing about respecting their rights as people. Once you see where they sleep, the kind of food they eat, where they toilet, and all of that, it's not good for a human being. And so when someone goes through that process, and the person comes out, and you expect the person to give you what the person has not been given, what the person does not have, how does that work? So this is huge. It's huge. And I'm happy we now have the Police Trust Fund. And I pray if the press reports are anything to go by, they quickly overcome the little challenges they're having within to begin to, as quickly as possible, attend to these issues. It's not something to tarry over for a day or two over. Security, like I said, is cardinal. If you go into any country, your first impression of that country is based on the 1-2 security agents or police officers you meet, how they treat you, how they relate with you, give an impression of what that country is like. And so the police is both, is like an ambassador and also persons that will check the civil space, which also takes me to the other point of motivation of citizens engaging with
I would have to ask you to quickly, round up your thoughts.
Right. So for example, the issue for me of promotions of police officers, we had come up with this, the Police Service Commission is thinking, and is yet to be there, but of saying, look, citizens should also have a say in promotion. When a police officer is within the community and has done so well, that community should be able to put up a position paper to the PSC, to the Police Service Commission, and says, this is the gallant thing this officer has done. Please let us appreciate him, either through promotion or some sort of reward system and all of that. I think these things are very important.
Sorry, this is just an off question. Do policemen still buy their own uniforms, boots, and belts themselves?
To the best of my knowledge, they do in the main. They still do. Yeah, they do.
There was a story of one Sergeant Chop Double in Lagos years ago who was bragging about how he acquired his own uniforms and kit. but he was looking very smart many years ago, Sergeant Chop Double. That was his name. I hope he's still in service or he's retired. But much more seriously, you talked about, Claire, we're already pressed for time. I was going to say this about the police college in Kenya. The training and the kind of aggression that even the trainees begin to manifest while they are still in school. Bankantoni Way, Mobalaji Bankantoni Way, which leads to the airport. Aborted there, it's the customs office. I recall on one occasion, the recruits were coming out with their buckets to go and fetch water. I think they had no water in the police academy, and they had bored holes in the wall to get through. And they were almost manhandling motorists. I was driving on that occasion. I was in that neighborhood. I was driving. And you could see the manifestation of their displaced aggression, as it were. But very quickly, CP Alobi, I know this problem might seem far-fetched. I had raised on this program sometime in the past. I didn't know, and I still do not know, why most of the police stations tended to be bungalows. Very small cubicles like this with concrete vents, just enough for detainees to breathe. Well, on the heels of the destruction of some of the police stations, might we now have a redesign, at least to be more accommodating? Our population has grown. All those small bungalows you see, the design appears to be very uniform. I'm sure you have a history behind this. Can we get that redesigned? That is one. And two, might it be possible in locations where there are assets that have either been temporarily or permanently forfeited on account of corruption cases that could be assigned to the police in the meantime as makeshift stations while the new ones have been rebuilt?
Yeah, thank you very much. That is why, for me, I would strongly suggest to the federal government that the various committees that have been set in the states should not just be, those ones are just to look at the brutality, the allegations of police brutality and so forth. The federal government should also constitute committees that would look at this, the problem that the police suffer as a result of these NSAS in terms of the 22 of them were murdered, their barracks were raised down, their arms were carted away, their vehicles burnt and so forth. There should be a committee, not just leaving this into, now it's now left to any state government probably who decides to come out to support the police. There should be an institutional process where the federal government should set up committee that will look at this problem that affects the police per se, because police is a critical institution in this country. And if it has been battered, and we shouldn't just sweep it under the carpet, they should look at the federal government, set up a committee that will address this problem, and like somebody said, they can sort facilities that have been probably been recovered from corrupt politicians. They can be donated to the police to be used, you know. So I think I would strongly recommend that, suggest to the federal government, not just setting this other panel in the state, see about the police, because the police is key for the government to succeed. With that, like I said, nations are built on law and order, and the police is the primary agency that have to provide law and order. So the government should look at that and see that provided. And again, our National Orientation Agency should, you see, Section 24 of the Constitution provides that it's the constitutional duty of every Nigerian citizen to assist the agency in maintaining law and order. But how many Nigerians are conscious of these obligations or responsibilities as citizens? They're not conscious. So I think the government should, the National Orientation should see that Nigerians become conscious, not only asking about our right, and our civil society should also see that how they can educate Nigerians about their obligation to society.
We will have to leave it at that, please. Thank you, former Commissioner of Police, FCT retired Lawrence Adobe. Thank you very much for your thoughts. And also, let me appreciate Rumi Mom, Commissioner, Human Rights, Police Service Commission. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to have you with us. Kabir Adamu, Security Risk Management and Intelligence Specialist. Always a pleasure to have you. And of course, last but certainly not the least, Assistant Inspector General of Police, retired Bala Hassan, who joined us from our legal studio. Good to see you too, and thank you very much for joining us.
All right, Claire, just before we didn't have the opportunity of raising this, but I think it should be implied that the police facilities that were damaged or destroyed and the policemen that lost their lives should not merely be seen as collateral casualties. There are videos circulating of some of the perpetrators of those atrocities. And I think the law has a very long arm.
Yes,
and
indeed.
they shouldn't refrain or resist the temptation of saying we won't go after those persons.
Indeed.
Law
Indeed,
and order must be maintained at all times. So that does it for us today on Good Morning Nigeria. We appreciate your being with us. We're back tomorrow same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
I am Claire Adilabu Abdul Razak. Always remember you can be a star by connecting with us.